get, like there was no money at all. I don't know. And then again, one of his party members at some point said that was gratuity. So,
but also now we have money here, but we don't know the source, and the supposed recipient of the money is also saying they don't want the money. So where does the
what
money
is
belong?
interesting? You can't prove if money that has been given to you, allegedly given to you by hand. In courts of law, they can even take you for defense because you can't prove that you got this money from this person.
You know that meme that says,
there's no transaction.
If the money you have it's not claimed by anyone, just eat that money. Everyone is saying
no one can claim it.
That's the thing, just eat the money. What's
but
wrong with
the Inspectorate of Government is now investigating.
Do you know why? Because of this halabalu Nico.
She was very clear, said we are arresting this person as we are investigating where he got the money. Was it a bribe? Was it extortion? Was it extortion? How did this honorable member get the money? So the hero, he came as a hero. You see, when he was coming with the money, he was a hero and he had the cameras. When he was before the office of the law, he was a hero. Asked, where did you get the money from the speakers? He was a hero at that moment. When he got out and police was taking him, he had changed face and look. You could even see
and in English.
And I think you now I'm in hot soup.
Actually, in political science, such people are called Himalaya ping pongs. So, with that kind of Himalayanism and ping ponging, you become.
I cannot believe we have money right here that does not have anywhere it belongs in the moment. So we are talking about 40 million Uganda
but
shillings.
we will tell the IGG.
The IGG will tell us.
But this
after
money
the
can
investigations
come to us and we find the better.
Anyway, it's very, very interesting. Yeah, our parliament isn't. Every other day there are stories that come out, and you can't even explain. You can't even comprehend what's happening. But you have to make sure you follow up. And I guess we'll have to follow up on this 40 million Uganda shillings. What will it do, or who is going to own it? That is a question we also need answers to. But for now, going through some of the stories locally and internationally.
And we'll begin with the politics, and that is the Gogonyo by-elections. The NRM-leaning but independent candidate, Issa Taligola, who was the only remaining challenger of the NRM candidate, Derek Oren, stepped out of the race for Gogonyo County parliamentary by-election, leaving the NRM flag bearer the only person in the race. This was during President Yoweri Museveni, whose visit in Palisa district to wrap up the campaigns for NRM camp. Museveni, however, directed the party legal team to analyze the declaration and guide the party. Hundreds of NRM supporters convened at Araruru Primary School in Obutete sub-county for the final campaign trail for the NRM candidate Derek Oren. This venue attracted supporters from two sub-counties of Obete and Gogonyo. At exactly 2 p.m., the NRM party chairperson, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, arrived at the campaign venue. Candidate Derek Oren, among other leaders, welcomed the president to Palisa district. Others in the race were the NUP's Joseph Obopolot, who earlier dropped out of the race. The president then addressed a gathering for 1 hour, and he promised them development if they do good politics. Another engagement was held at Kahukura Primary School, where party members from Kahukura and Apobong sub-counties convened. The president's campaign in the district, not only to wrap up for the NRM, but also to put a full stop to Gogonyo County parliamentary by-elections, and also such which are scheduled for this Thursday.
Well, still in local stories, the Joint Security Forces in Karamoja sub-region have arrested at least 47-year-old chairperson of that is Akapwa village in Lotisan sub-county in Moroto district and recovered NATO gun. Security have also netted a gun dealer, Teko Mariko, resident of that is a resident of Lakoriam and Turkana County in Kenya, who has been selling firearms to Karamojongs in Kotido, Napak, Kibong, Moroto, Nakapiripirit districts. Now, the operations of the Joint Security Forces of Police and the UPDF in the Karamoja sub-region have netted notorious warriors and gun dealers. 7 suspects found in possession of firearms or linked to gun trafficking were paraded before the press at the 3rd Division headquarters in Moroto district.
And away from security, we now head to Kenya, polls where millions of Kenyans braved long queues to vote for their leader in the 2022 general elections. The political positions up for grabs are president, governor, senator, woman member of the National Assembly, and members of the county assembly. The electorate in the areas ensured that they never missed and turned up in huge numbers to express and practice their right. Kenyans turned up in huge numbers to exercise their democratic right. The polling stations across the country were opened, and the anxious voters by 6 many had lined up. The voters who braved the long queues from as early as 4 a.m. in polling stations across Nairobi City were impressed with how the elections were conducted by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission.
Now, with just 1 day left to Bukumbiri constituency by-elections, the National Unity Platform candidate has defected to the NRM. Joshua Mutabazi, a former NUP candidate who was vying for Bukumbiri County Parliamentary slot, was unveiled by the Prime Minister of Uganda, Robina Nabanja, and handed over to the party Secretary General, Richard Todong, at the Gorilla Height Hotel in Kurungo Town Council in Kisoro District. The Prime Minister, Robina Nabanja, did present Mutabazi to the NRM Secretary General, Richard Todong, who has realized that NUP has no future. Mutabazi told the media that he had decided to join the NRM because he was disappointed and frustrated by the actions of the National Unity Platform.
Well, moving on to some of the international stories, a senior Ukrainian official has suggested a series of explosions at a Russian airbase in Crimea could have been the work of partisan saboteurs, as Kiev denied any responsibility for the attack in the Russian-occupied territory that left at least 1 person dead and 8 wounded. Mikhailo Podolyak, an advisor to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, also suggested Russian incompetence as a possible cause of the blasts. Russia's Ministry of Defense said the detonation of several aviation ammunition stores had caused an explosion at the Saki Air Base on the west coast of the peninsula, which Russia annexed from Ukraine back in 2014 and used in February as it began its invasion of the rest of the country. Unverified videos posted on social networks showed sunbathers fleeing a nearby beach as huge clouds of smoke from the explosions rose over the horizon. Crimea's health department said 1 civilian had been killed and a further 8 people injured. The area was sealed off within a radius of 5 kilometers, according to what was said by the authorities. Now, moving over to Donald Trump's Republican Party has come to the former U.S. president's defense after FBI agents conducted a search at his residence in Florida, with many conservative lawmakers vowing to investigate law enforcement agencies involved in the incident. The anger was expressed by far-right firebrands as well as mainstream Republican congressional leaders who claimed without evidence that the raid on Monday night was politically motivated. "I have seen enough," House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said in a statement. The Department of Justice has reached an intolerable state of weaponized politicization. McCarthy said when Republicans win control of the House of Representatives, they will conduct immediate oversight of the department, warning that Attorney General Merrick Garland should preserve his documents and clear his calendar. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi slammed McCarthy's statement, starting with refuting his insinuation that Republicans would take control of the House of Representatives after the upcoming midterm elections in November. White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre stressed on Tuesday that President Joe Biden had no knowledge of the search before it happened. Now, back in Africa, at least 15 soldiers were killed in northern Burkina Faso when a transport vehicle drove over a hidden explosive, killing several troops before a second explosion killed those who rushed to their aid, the army has said in a statement. The incident occurred on a rural road in the Bam province of the country's central north region, where soldiers and civilians are routinely targeted by armed groups. Those linked to Al-Qaeda and the ISIS armed group have been active in the region since at least 2015. The attack was carried out during an escort mission, the army said in a statement on Tuesday. One of the vehicles in the convoy, which was carrying troops, hit an explosive device near Namsiguya district in Bam province, it added. The attack came less than a week after armed fighters killed 4 soldiers and 9 civilian army volunteers in another Bam province ambush. Burkina Faso's military government took power in January coup that removed former President Marc-Christian Kabore amid widespread anger about the government's failure to improve the security situation in the country. Switching to the climate news, last month marked one of the 3 hottest Julys ever recorded, with global temperatures measuring nearly half a degree Celsius above average, according to the United Nations Weather Agency. The world just had one of the 3 warmest Julys on record. Claire Nellis, a spokeswoman for the World Meteorological Organization, told reporters in Geneva on Tuesday. Pointing to fresh data from the European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service, she said that July 2022 had been slightly cooler than the same month in 2019 and slightly warmer than the one in 2016. The temperatures globally last month were 0.4 degrees Celsius above the 1991 to 2020 average, according to the World Meteorological Organization. And this despite the fact that weather phenomenon La Nina, which has held the globe in its clutches almost uninterrupted since September 2020, is meant to have a cooling influence. Well, we keep seeing statistics like this coming in comparisons, and it seems that, the farther we go, the hotter it becomes, or the worse the situation becomes. Again, we call up to you as an individual. We don't leave these responsibilities to the government entirely, but you as a person, you also have quite a big role you have to play in this. Speaking of roles and people, there is a role that you have to play when it comes to your health. There is a certain kind of priority you need to avail to your health. And I know that certainly Robert has done that part. But he also has to share the knowledge with the rest of our Good Morning Uganda family. What are we looking at this morning, Robert?
Definitely sharing is caring, and I began by giving a bottle to my brother Felix.
Okay.
NKUNDA, of course, to let you know about the enormous benefits.
That's why he's smiling like that.
Oh,
so
definitely.
Keep smiling, keep glowing, keep taking hallelujah. That's what I can tell you. To you, Uncle Bob.
Well, I'm holding 2 products here, and I'll give one to my sister as well.
Okay.
Yes.
And I'm glad you actually give me the tamarind fruit drink. Do you know that tamarind as a plant, it's good for antioxidants, clearing your skin, and also it has, it's said to have some non-cancerous fighting aids. So if I see this incorporated in a drink like this that you can access at only 1,500 Ugandan shillings, it tells you a lot. It serves you a lot, and I think when it comes to your health, you will put in as much as you can. But if you have an opportunity to put in as little as you can to have a good one, then why not? Try out the Hallelujah tamarind drink. I love the color, brown. Brown is quite a rare color to find in bottles, but when you try this one, I'm impressed.
You can only find it with Bob's jackets.
Oh, yeah, yes. I don't know. There is a connection
saying.
here.
Well, if you can order them from Italy. But anyway,
okay.
Just to let you know, I'm having, this is a new product, that is Hallelujah banana juice drink. Now, why every time we talk about your health, we're in a time of economic hardships, so you need to save every penny and have your priorities right. So spending on your health shouldn't be something, going to the doctors, going to see your physician, yet at just 1,500 a day, you're saving that inconvenience, your body is not fine, but also you're spending a lot of money. Doctors have become very expensive. So just take Hallelujah products at just 1,500 and you'll enjoy life and make those savings.
just make sure that you shake well before you consume it. And we'll be going in for the inspirational song for this Wednesday. When we get back, we still have a lot to unpack for you right here on Good Morning Uganda. We'll be back. That will be answered with the results that we're probably hoping we'll be getting any minute from now. But I can tell you that Kenyans cannot wait. They're very excited. Well, good morning, Robert.
A lovely morning to you, and thank you so much, our viewers, for waking up with us. Of course, the team is here. The man with specs, with a very interesting smile this morning, I think, because it is a Wednesday. And you know, Felix and Wednesdays, he always has someone special to crush on.
Oh yes, he has a very special relationship with the Wednesday or with Wednesdays, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say about this one.
Which lady this time around?
Yes, well.
But, well, you talked about what is happening in Kenya.
Yes.
I must say, for now, I'm really excited how Kenyans have handled their process of transition of power, or their electoral process. Right from campaigns. Yesterday, I was looking at social media, and some people were wondering, are Kenyans really having elections? Or but for that good reason, anyway.
Yes.
Because they had expectations of what usually defines an African election, more so in many of these third world countries. And they were like, but it seems Kenyans are not having elections because we are not seeing the deployment, we are not hearing some this, that. We want to say thank you for setting that good example.
Yes.
We pray and hope that even the end journey to it, announcing of who has won the results, then also the swearing in, we just pray for peace. Where many were scared,
yes, I
think the opposite is happening. And we just bless God for Kenyans and continue to pray for them. But back home here, Philo, there's also very interesting news. We are also having a number of by-elections.
Yes.
Now, there is one by-election that is interesting. Where first we saw the FDC and the National Unity Platform forms kind of a cooperation way or coalition that, well, they have these by-elections, they are going to front one candidate. So what happened? FDC's candidate stepped down, that is in Gogonyo, in Palisa district, to have the NUP candidate. And guess after nominations, everything is done and dusted, the NUP candidate steps down.
Yes.
And says, for him, he has discussed with the cultural leader and all that, so he steps down. So there remains an NRM candidate, official candidate, and another independent, but leaning to NRM. Yesterday, when the president went there to campaign for the NRM ticket, guess what? Candidate. This candidate comes to the president and also steps down, leaving one man now unopposed. That is the NRM flag bearer. And I'm like, okay, you get nominated, you have support, then you move out, then it moves out. And, okay, is this the strength of NRM? Is it people gauging and saying we won't waste others' time? But by the time you go for nomination, by the way, I think, will people see this as betrayal? What does this mean to your political career?
But if there is anything I have learned when it comes to politics, whether in Uganda or anywhere else, that there is too much of being unpredictable. You cannot predict things. Things don't look like the way they are. You know, one minute you're expecting something, another minute it's a totally different story. So the moment we learn that this happens in all politics, I think it will be better for us, and the shock will be less effective on us. So there is too much unpredictability in politics. But again, that's it. It's a game. It's a very smart game for smart people. If you can't catch up, I mean, I would advise that you just sideline yourself and let the people who can handle this run it 100%. But Felix, good morning.
Good morning, Philo. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Aren't you glad it is Wednesday?
Oh, yes, I am. Midweek
Isn't
happiness.
it beautiful?
Oh, yes.
Isn't it the day of the Lord? I tell you, it brings reminiscence to one of those beautiful statements in the good or the best book in the world, that is the Bible, when God says, this is the day that the Lord has made. The gorilla height hotel in
Zelensky.
Behind the headlines.
So what are we deliberating? Whether rats from another country can be, I mean, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
Every Wednesday at 10 p.m.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda, we have made Museveni the issue. I can tell Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still be this roundabout.
was brought to you by
Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard super easy.
A World Cup in the desert? The first one in the Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves, high-flying saves, unbelievable goals. Out of this world celebration.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Go TV. Love it.
Enjoy more GBs for the same price on Airtel. Kirabo using to Gabonais. We have increased GBs across all your favorite packs. Now, 4 GB is at 10,000 shillings and 10.5 GB at 22,500 shillings, all valid for a week. For the heavy data users, enjoy 24 GB at 50,000 shillings and 50 GB at 100,000 shillings, all valid for a month. Dial *175# or use the My Airtel app to buy these and more affordable weekly and monthly data bundles on Airtel, the smartphone network.
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Hello? This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Hey, Kasozi, my brother. Long time. We last met when we were at campus. It's been a while, but you are the person I'm looking for.
Campus? Really?
Hey, you don't remember me?
Okay, so how can I help you?
I'm stuck in Gulu making millions, and I need to urgently send money to my sick mother. But I can't find any mobile money agent near me. I've sent the money to your phone, as you can see the message. It might take a few minutes to come through, but I urgently need you to send the money to my mother. Let me send you her number, and you send it to her chap.
My friend, I'm afraid your mom is going to die.
What?
Because I don't know you, I never went to campus, and I'm also in Gulu. So can we meet at CPS, we talk about it?
Stay tuned for what Kasozi does next.
Tofera. Refrain from unnecessary engagements with strangers over the phone.
This message is powered by the Uganda Communications Commission.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Of August 2022. Good morning, Uganda, and thank you for joining us for this newsreel. My name is Philomena Mastiko, and Felix NKUNDA and the senior man, Robert, joins us this morning for this. Oh, yes, he's a senior man, and I think he deserves that.
And I need one day to give me time. I tell you why Robert is senior. and just to throw you one
yes.
I remember in the transition of UTV to UBC. Some people will celebrate who helped in the transition of UTV to UBC. we can't refuse to have a comment about Uncle Bob.
I just wish I was
we need to get a day when you crash on men. I'll crash on Robert for that.
But you see, it is a crime to give people wrong history.
Well, I'm pretty sure that at least you have some details.
It is on record.
Yet they weren't there. So I want to put a disclaimer to that. I was never there when UTV was
Mr. Wana. He will give you.
He'll give us the story. Well, but I don't think it's bad to be a senior man, especially on a team like this. You give us quite you create for us a picture of certain things that we
never were able to see.
Yeah, to see, and so it's a good thing, and I think it's respect.
It's celebrated.
Yes, it's celebrated. But
UTV, UBC, you can't live in different generations and not celebrate.
Well, speaking of celebrations, speaking of celebrations, Kenyans are yet to celebrate, of course, as they are are awaiting the results to be finally out to know who the next president is going to be. Now, yesterday, the 9th of August, we did see quite a big turnout of voters. Matter of fact, you know, they had put deadlines of when the elections were expected to be ending, the voting process rather, they were expected to end. But because of a big turnout of Kenyans, you know, the timeline was surpassed. Now, tallying centers are really busy, but I must tell you that you know, the competition is actually quite stiff over there. Now, according to certain provisional results that are coming in from Citizen TV Kenya, this was just like about 2 hours ago. They show that William Ruto right now has about 49.36%. And also looking at Raila Odinga, he's standing at 49.18%. And also Professor George Luchiri Wajakoya at 0.47%, and the pastor, also a lawyer, David Amwaure Wahiga, is standing at 0.19%. But of course, the tallying centers are still busy. Results keep changing every now and then, and of course, right here on UBC TV, we'll be giving you all the results and the updates, whatever is coming up, because we do have our reporters stationed there. But also, I need to congratulate the Kenyan population, because I believe that the first phase, okay, has already been gone through without any hindrances. And now the main issue also comes when it comes to counting. Are they going to go through it smoothly without having any hiccups on the way? But also, I guess there is something we can learn from that as other African countries, because we know, truth be told, most of African elections, it's hard for us to believe that they can be this smooth.
The similarities, the difference.
Africa is a village.
Yes, that's quite true.
Yeah, I believe there are lessons that we can learn. Maybe just to start off briefly to talk about that before we get into our own issues here at home. What do you think about the smoothness of this phase, the first phase of the elections in Kenya, Robert?
First, I want to believe that Kenyans learned from their mistakes. When you remember 2007, what happened where they lost about 1,100 people because of an election that was mismanaged. I still want to believe those memories are still fresh within them, because even right from campaigns you would hear they were speaking a message of peace. Even yesterday, the outgoing president, after casting his vote, the first thing was peace. Raila Odinga, peace. William Ruto, though he did his very early, but at least he also talked about let's remain calm, let's be peaceful. All the key people there were talking about peace. And they were still talking about what happened in 2007. And 2007 is not very far. So I want to believe, one, they learned. And the only problem is people failing to learn. But I want to believe that Kenyans learned from their past mistakes. They don't want to have these harsh memories. But also, because elections have 3 phases. One, the candidates are contrary to some countries where they have elections and they're there's a lot of verbal artillery. The candidates themselves tried to their maximum to minimize this funny language. You know, if we still don't joke with this election, for us we shall plan B, all that nonsensical utterances. We didn't see them in Kenyan elections. So I want to thank the candidates, because the candidates do a lot to either trigger violence or to maintain cool and peace. Then the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. Also, I must thank them, because to me, by 6 people being at a polling station and polling material is there, and the polling agents are there, because William Ruto, I think, went around 6 a.m. Imagine. Here, even sometimes in some countries, by 10 you're still fidgeting, you're not seeing boxes here and all that. So 2 p.m. So I want to credit that Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. So far, so good. But of course, we know that the main function happens at declaring who has won the elections. That is where the loser now will play a great role. Either to say, I accept defeat, thank you for electing me, the votes I got. However, I wasn't the preferred choice of the majority. But I thank those that voted for me. So the rules of this election has so much to do. But also the Electoral Commission at such a time has so much to do to ensure there is transparency. So now, because the public goes with the outcomes. what the loser tells them. Here in Uganda, you have the issue of Pulani B. We are going to court. That also instigates. But also, even if the loser does that, when the process has been transparent, people are certified that yes, the truth is he was defeated, he's now crying for, because the entire process has been transparent. So these remaining bits are very critical. The commission itself and he who will lose, not he who will win, but he who will lose. How will that person address defeat, and what message will that person have? Because Kenya has a big youthful population.
Yes.
Some are disgruntled, some are jobless. Just a snap of a finger, they are ready to take action.
Okay. Now, maybe just to pick your brain, Felix, I saw quite a number of Ugandans questioning whether Kenya is in East Africa. Is that an East African country? Because according to how all these voting process was running smoothly, are they doing anything different that we are not doing as other African countries?
Well, not quite different, not anything unique, if you may put, but just that the benchmarks or the backbones or the foundation of their politics is not necessarily, if I use a country like Uganda, it's not necessarily a military style of politicking, which is the reverse in countries like Uganda. That's why you see lots of clashes. If you remember in our elections here, the level of deployment, they were beating the Katumbas left, right, center. They were running in markets. Again, because of the style of because for us here, we have a big relationship between politics and military. And that is explained by how the current government came into power.
Yes.
And how the previous governments have been losing power.
It's been a trend.
Absolutely. So there's a big relationship. In fact, it is also suggested that a good president of a country like Uganda must have a military background. It is a suggestion or a view, which is not the same in Kenya. Now, no wonder you don't see a lot of clashes, because at every point where you have coercive forces directly involved with civilians, there's going to be running. What here you arrest Robert Kirabo, and then the Philomenas will be up in, but sometimes there was no reason for arresting. Now those things are not there, that's why we don't see. But also, the other big difference is that the people who are contesting in Kenya are senior politicians, both of them.
Yes.
Now that changes the game totally, in terms of the message, in terms of the fashion and style of campaign. That's what Robert was trying to say, that their statements you won't hear from them because of the seniority. You have someone who has been deputy president, more or less president of a country for 10 years. You have someone who has been opposition, most recent calm alliance with government. So you don't expect any of them to, the level, the seniority, that we expect from them. Trust me, if any of these two particular people who are majorly at the loggerheads in this election wasn't senior like them, you would have a worse scenario than Uganda. If I may give a comparison. If you had maybe a youth,
a Kenyan
I don't want to use my brother Robert.
No, okay. No, but I'm just drawing, making things clear. I'm trying to
if you had a Kenyan, someone in the age of Honorable Sentamu, you would have the similar or even worse, I'll be honest. But you're looking at people who are not, so you can't relate by far how this election has happened vis-a-vis what happened in 2021, I think, when we did have our elections. So that informs the kind of election they have had. But on top of it all, the wounds of 2007 are still fresh. Again, as Robert alluded, that unless you are an idiot or a fool to forget the effects of such that happened, even up till today, we still have people who are affected. Families who lost fathers, mothers, children, you know. Up till today, we even see people who are still struggling with cases in the ICC. What happened in 2007 even took the whole head of state to the Hague. Unless you are really, really dense to forget that. And that's it seems just like yesterday. So Kenyans, clearly they are good students, and we thank God that they have been able to learn from that, and we pray the trend is kept. However, the processes of an election, pre, actual, and post, are all handled differently.
Yes.
We don't know how people handle loss. We don't know how people...
Their reactions towards these phases.
Exactly. We can only make comment on what so far as is.
Yes.
Let's wait for tomorrow, maybe when the announcement comes.
The loser has a great...
We have seen Kenyan courts cancel elections before.
Yes.
We don't know if... So, but we know at least as is, so far, we can credit Kenyans, and we pray that this... We will move with these sort of like stains.
And when you did talk about the seniority of the contenders, it reminds me of a certain statement that was made by William Ruto saying, listen, regardless of who comes out as the winner, we have to be intentional with the vote you cast.
That's a big one.
It's a very big statement, clearly showing you that this is not just about the person, it's about the plan. How effective is it? Is it applicable? Is it practical? Look at the country. Don't look at the person who is trying to ask for the vote. So there was too much, I could say, maturity in a statement like that.
Unlike the drums that were being sounded here.
There was so much of political maturity. And we pray that we continue to see that political maturity, because the statements of values, even going to court, is a decision.
Yes.
We've had people here lose and they don't choose to go to court. So what the lose of this election, either Raila Odinga or William Ruto, because of course my professor is far away from anything.
Professor Joshua Jacoya.
I've missed the 10-point manifesto really, but anyway.
Anyway, speaking of maturity and elections, well, much as Kenya is trying to handle its things quite in a straight line, I could say that there is also a lot going on for us here in Uganda. And we have, I think, the 2 by-elections that are on their way. We do have one that is in Kisoro, that is Buchimbiri constituency, and then we also have Gogonyo. Now, in the last couple of days, a lot has happened, okay? We've had different contenders for these parliamentary seats in these very specific by-elections. Now, to start off with Kisoro, we do have the one NUP candidate who was definitely... he really wanted the position, but eventually he defected to, NRM, and he just gave up his position and said, listen, I think I am going to cross over, because of a number of reasons. And when you also switch to Gogonyo now, here we did have one remaining contender for the position, and also the main challenger of one NRM candidate, Derek Oroni. Now, this man just decided to step down, okay? But when you look at all these, we also had quite a, I could say, was it a corporation that NUP came up with FDC, and they decided to drop their FDC candidate in one of these constituencies and front the NUP candidate, maybe because they believe that with this strategy they would garner more votes for this person and probably take this position. But at the end of the day, like you did talk about the political scene here in Uganda at the start of the show, you did say, I don't know if we can categorize that as betrayal or what. But again, I also sense that there is quite a lot that is happening. We are seeing crossovers, okay? You agree that you belong to this party, you even decide to represent it in these by-elections, and you want to take over this position, but then just a few minutes to the end, okay, towards the end, you're switching. We're seeing people crossing from one party to another. We're seeing quite uncoordinated statements being made. Now, just to get from you, Robert, what does this represent? The politics that we are having here in Uganda, doesn't this say quite a lot about the way we run them, and what could that be anyway?
First, we must understand that we don't have political parties in Uganda. Yes.
Well,
let me just...
Okay.
You may have to substantiate.
That's what I'm going to do.
That allegation.
We have political parties in terms of documentation.
Okay.
And we have them on paper and a few activities. But if we are to talk about what they call a political party, I draw my yardstick from the Communist Party of China, from the Chama cha Mapinduzi, a political party here in Tanzania, and a few go to South Africa political parties. What do I mean that we don't have political parties? We have a resemblance of political parties. Because even NRM, the mass party, I want to tell you, should one time, even if today the chairman of the party said, I've formed another party.
Yes.
Who would stay in NRM? Because a political party, for those that did political science, at least I did a course unit in political science, away from these identities, a political party is more or less like a religion to someone. That here, a political party recruits, identifies and recruits. What we are having here is people just enter things without even understanding them very well. Bandwagon. For example, can you really, at the bottom of your knowledge, if you're in your right sense, say NUP is a political party? National Unity Platform is a political party. Look,
what?
Where people came, first it was people power. All of us were in the same. Then out of convenience, I want to say this, because it was a requirement, you go, you look for Chibalama and others, you find something that was there. Remember this old saga. So you make a, you say now we have a political party, we've bought, you buy. Which ideas, which ideologies? You get it. Actually, some that resemble political party would say maybe the traditional ones.
Yes.
Because we do not have political parties, but we have resemblances of political parties, people follow things they don't understand. You ask a person, NRM, UPC, what is your party ideology? They know nothing.
So are you saying that most of these opposition parties we are having don't have standard and grounded ideologies?
Uganda, all our political parties have one thing in common. They have not invested in knowing or in training people that come to their political parties. That is why, in all political parties, a person gets, you can't be a flag bearer. Let me tell you, in a political party, to give you their flag, their ticket, a political party. One, you're a cadre. You know what you stand for and what you want. So this is why we see a person can come to a political party. I was watching my friend and Joel Senyonyi, and I felt like crying or laughing. When he said the problem, some people come to NUP because they want to get closer to the president to be noticed. And you're a spokesperson of a party. That is already a failure on your recruiting methods. So unless we go back and build political parties. And one time Mr. Mugisha Mutu came out and said, let's go and do grassroots work. How do you identify people? Do they understand why they join your political party? But here today it is, where do I get money? Where do I get the vote? People being, it is easy to buy off a candidate. Imagine by the time you're nominated and you wait when nominations are sealed and you move out of an election.
Yes.
And you tell us that person belonged to your party. Shame upon leaders then of these political parties.
Well, also still getting into the same topic, because we did see this young man, Joshua Mutabazi, a former NUP candidate who was vying for this presidential, not presidential, wow, for the MP seat in Buchimbiri. He deflected to NRM, but also looking at Gogonyo, this man, the leaning in candidate, okay, that is Issa Taligola, who also just decided to step down and leave.
Remember, Issa was NRM by the way.
Yes.
He was NRM, he had just come as an independent.
Yes.
But the NUP candidate, where NUP and FDC's candidate had stepped down, that is Joseph Okoboy Opolot.
Yes.
For him, FDC says we are not going to field our candidate, the candidate pulls out. The remaining opposition candidate also pulls out.
Now, to get it from you, Felix, are there underlying issues that we are not seeing? Is there a communication that is being made by occurrences like this, and probably we're just turning a blind eye?
Yeah, definitely. When you see what's happening, you must actually not be excited.
We need to worry.
Definitely. Because as it is always, that politics or politicians are people who hold the contractual obligations to serve Ugandans. It is important for us to know who we are entering into agreement with at the time of election to fulfill the social contract, for that matter. Now, when you see the caliber and the type or the breed of leaders politics is offering today, you must worry. For some of us who have been blessed to be fathers, you worry. One of the things that characterize a leader is a stance. Now, stance defines, it's one of the definitions. You must have in Uganda what we call omugongo. Now, leaders who are ping-pongs you may not know to what extent they can ping pong. You get it?
Yes.
If a leader is in 4 parties in 5 years, and I can give you very many examples up till today.
Yes.
We have leaders who by 2016 were in TDI was when Honorable Mbabazi was. TDI. Okay, they were in DP. They went to TDI. They went to Subi. They came back to DP. They went to DP. There's a new DP that
DP
was
block.
there. The DP block. They went to NUP. Those are actually 5 parties in a span of 5 years.
5 years. So each year.
And that person is a leader. Is saying, I want to lead. I'm trying to show the risk we have as a country in terms of the kind of politicians we have. It is no strange, it is no news when you see people crossing from one party. The gentleman in Kisoro says that he was frustrated by no. My friend, he talked about the NCs of this world. Guys were in prison for 24 years. What more frustration would you get? The gentleman in CCC in China, I think he's called Xiao Li, something like that. He even suggested that that party be made a religion.
This is what a political party should be, almost a religion.
When you go to the chairman, and he gave you very valid, and very many others. How many times have you seen people in America cross from the Republicans to Democrats? Because Philomena looked at me badly, the chairman of the party.
I didn't get a position. I wasn't elected party leader.
So, and that's the truth of the matter. This thing of multi-party politics, let me tell you, the NRA members have a tendency of saying, we were forced. No, they were smart. These guys are smart. They knew this was the best way to keep them in power. Because if you have an enemy whose manual you manage, I don't know if you get the point. It's just like having a wife at home, but all the phone calls she gets, you also get. All the messages she reads you, what better will you? There you can, you're like 20 feet ahead of, and this is what is happening. This that you see in Uganda was planned. And it is being executed to the perfection of the same. No wonder. It is not strange when you see some things happening in these so-called opposition parties. They're just playing in the framework of what was planned. Why do you think, and I can tell you, consistently since the introduction, it is over now 20 years of multi-party, why have these parties learned anything? And why most of the opposition parties headed by defectors from NRM? That's the question. All parties are almost started by people from
NRM.
You go to, and the major ones.
Yes.
Go to PPP, the Honorable Vidandi Sali. Go to FDC, the Honorable Chiza Besigye, who was a minister, who was whatever. All of these people I'm talking about. Go to, is it ANT for Honorable Mr. Mugisha Muntu? Yes. Can you imagine? Former CDF. You know what a CDF means. Not recent, you have the Chagulanyis of this world coming and trying to close the gap, but staggering, because the foundation of political parties is not.
Still wanting.
It is still wanting. It can't stand far.
Just
as I've told you, the members of NUP, some of them have been in 5 parties for the last 5 years. This means every year they have a different.
They went to NUP because of a marriage of convenience.
I can tell you, honestly and truly.
No, because they even understand anything.
Political parties, and you see, NRM did it well. The NRC rather. And that's what the president prides in. That guy recruited. Now, recruitment is different from converting people. And the people that were converted to NRC then were not, they were members. They were supporters, actually. They weren't members.
Yes.
Membership was kept for the Philomenas who were recruited.
Exclusive.
There's a difference. Membership and supporters, we can be supported. But who is a member? I want you to compare people who have defected from NRM vis-a-vis the ones who are defecting from. and talk about the members. So people disagree on principle, but they don't disagree on the ideology.
No, because they were well indoctrinated. You see,
they were recruited. That's why the NRM put in place places like Chankwanzis, is to indoctrinate, to put in mind, this is us. So that's why, and I can tell you, in Uganda we say Gachari Mabaga. One of the mottos of the best schools in Uganda. They say Gachari. You're yet to see.
Yes.
Because now it has become serious. How do you after nomination you pull out? That is syndicate.
No, actually, that shows
that should be even a crime.
These are opportunists now that enter these political parties.
The person should be taken to anti-corruption court.
Because why did you get our party flag?
Yes.
Of course, we blame the political parties as well because of poor foundations, and the problem being that why are these political parties also formed? You form a political party, why these are things you're going to get. Not because you have principles, you have an ideology that you believe in. But so that is one. And also Felix was here praising one party, saying for them. But I want to tell you, in the Bible, there's where the Lord told us that in my Father's house there are many places. If it wasn't so, I wouldn't have told you. One party is still surviving because there are many places that when you defect to eat, there are opportunities. You get it?
Yes.
And that is because even in that party, I'll tell you a lady called Aisha Kabanda. She stood for MP in a certain part of this country. Until she recognized that there was a wave coming, she also defected. And many have. So as long as people know we have the wrong foundation for political parties, we are still going to see many of these opportunists are going to exploit Ugandans. Someone waits and strikes where he gets best.
So can we say that because now we have seen a number of political parties, especially from the opposition side, coming together to form coalitions, form corporations. So what's the future of coalitions like this? Are we, can we say that they're on a shaky ground? Anytime they could break, or they will never be able to be very efficient? The efficacy right now, we could say it's like what, like at 10%? Because every other day, that's even a lot.
Do you know water hyphen?
Yes.
You remember when it attacked our lakes on Lake Victoria? Water hyphen. These coalitions are like water hyphen. Because one, what is the actual purpose? You know, purpose determines your stay. Was the purpose economic benefits? If it is economic benefits, that will end with time.
Yes.
It is short-lived. You form a coalition in a by-election that this is the only way we are going to remove a president from power. The man has many years. You know, then what next? So I don't see any future of them. They will fail, like so many have come up and failed.
But maybe for me, just to give one part in, is that, you see, we must agree to reduce the monetization of politics. People are in it for the wrong reason. And because of that, you can't just manage it. And this works for all the people. For example, I'll give you an example. People, and the truth of the matter, we're just here laughing about something. When someone is returning money in Parliament, and for this 1 week we have seen at least, this has been on the lips, you are given 40 million. Now, Philo, if you're getting 40 million and you don't know why you're given 40 million, why wouldn't you fight to get whatever cost? If Kirabo forms a party, it's the wave. Because of the things we see, there's a lot of wastage in terms of you get a car, you get, people bought airtime, they buy for them
allowances,
they buy for them handkerchiefs, earrings, knickers, what? Who doesn't want those things? So
there's so many
politics has been monetarized, and people, because of third world effects, will die to get those free things.
Yes.
Philo, who wouldn't want to get free money?
Absolutely no one.
People in Uganda come to town to carry luggage and end a day with 10,000 shillings. That is if they can raise it. Now, there's someone in Parliament who's probably even less educated than that person, who's getting 40 million to do what? To yawn.
Yes.
To yawn. To be in a plenary and just yawn, as long as your name is on attendance and you are there yawning.
And you're captured on the screens of some of these TVs. I was there, I was present.
What did you say?
Yes.
Na yawning. So, you can imagine. So I think we need to,
because voters, someone, we had a member of parliament who told me from your constituency, Felix,
absolutely.
You voted for a person to Gandhi.
When you say I voted,
yes, your constituency.
Well, Are you saying
Felix.
you did not cast that vote?
Did you vote?
No, actually, I was out of the country when the elections were being run. But I had the people in my constituency, Rubaga, South. And up till today, the one who repressed him, I've never seen him, by the way. You're a very good friend.
No, let's end this segment.
It's called...
Well, it says a lot. If he's your good friend, Robert, I am starting to question
he used to wine and dine before.
No, I can't deny Mukasa Alozias is my hobby and my friend.
Okay.
Yes.
But where is he? Have you ever heard from him anymore?
If the man is shaking his head like this, if he's nodding his head like this, he does. But he's your close friend.
Absolutely. Since he became a member of parliament.
Anyway, all I can say is that our parties right here, our political parties, we have political parties in Uganda, but we don't have political parties in Uganda.
We have relationships of convenience under the guise of political parties.
Yes.
That you want her. I hope I don't offend my fellow who I crushed on. You get a woman because you want to have beautiful kids. But you don't have Philo. You just said Philo looks beautiful. She has a nice...
You want brown kids, you go for a brown, a light-skinned lady.
Go to Mollen.
Anyway.
Please go to brown.
Thank you so much for joining us for this, segment, for this conversation. But again, I must say that politics in our country are, still wanting, even everywhere else. But so we have a long way to go. Hopefully, we are still alive to get to witness us getting to the final race of where we want the politics in. But I mean, here and there, things will always happen, twists and turns. There is quite a lot of individualism. Everybody's in need. Almost everybody's in need for themselves. What am I getting? And Felix was saying.
Optimistic.
Yes.
People, opportunists.
Opportunists. Well, we're going in for the dailies to see what is making the big stories in the Daily Monitor when it comes to the New Vision and, of course, the Daily Nation. And we'll still be giving you some more traffic updates and weather updates as Good Morning Uganda still goes on. We'll be back right after this.
Get connected today with the My Airtel 4G smartphone and enjoy free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 Uganda shillings. That's free 2 GB for the first month and free 1 GB for the next 11 months at only 250,000 Uganda shillings with free data for 1 whole year worth 86,500 shillings, making the effective price of the 4G phone 163,500 shillings only. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here, in the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking, to the taste of food that takes you on a journey, in the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth, in the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Enjoy more GBs for the same price on Airtel. Kirabo using to Gabane. We have increased GBs across all your favorite packs. Now, 4 GB is at 10,000 shillings and 10.5 GB at 22,500 shillings, all valid for a week. For the heavy data users, enjoy 24 GB at 50,000 shillings and 50 GB at 100,000 shillings, all valid for a month. Dial *175# or use the My Airtel app to buy these and more affordable weekly and monthly data bundles on Airtel, the smartphone network.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
And in the dailies this morning, starting off with the Daily Monitor, the big story still looking at Kenya elections. Next president, low voter turnout was a largely peaceful general election, which showed Raila Odinga and William Ruto in a close contest. Meanwhile, Endebess MP was accused of aiding voters from Uganda escape arrest. Catch that story in the Daily Monitor this morning, and also some reactions from candidates Raila Odinga, William Ruto, David Mwaure and George Wajakoya. Outage alert over Isimba Dam shutdown. The plant was shut down on Monday following flooding of the powerhouse that houses generations and turbines, and engineers were yet to release a report on the cause of the glitch. More stories, new upgraded national IDs to cost about 600 billion Uganda shillings. This is what was given to us according to the internal Affairs Minister. Now, government bans a sale of body organs in new bill. Now, get the details of the new bill in the Daily Monitor this morning. And also on a regional level, Masaka Diocese to turn Bidinzi Prayer Center into tourism site. And of course, new vet doctors are stuck over lack of practicing licenses. These are more in the Daily Monitor for this Wednesday morning.
Well, crossing over into the new vision, now government to recruit 1,200 medics, and some adverts have failed to attract applicants. That is detailed on page 8 of the new vision for this morning, but they also give you insights on the Kenyan polls, Odinga, Ruto in tight race. That story is detailed on page 7 of the new vision. Suppliers lose billions to conmen, that is on page 5. And Somalia President tours Kapeka Industries. Those details are also on page 6 of the new vision. They give you a big picture right there as Museveni camps in Palisa. And of course, that is the president right there handing over the party flag to Derek Orani, the National Resistance Movement candidate for Gogonyo County. That was yesterday. But also in the new vision, Karamoja suspected supplier has been nabbed. That is detailed on page 12 of the new vision.
And in the Daily Monitor Sports, all or nothing for Uganda, and this is the decisive day. The three contenders for the lawn sport at stake to the final qualification stage to the 2023 Cricket World Cup in India will all be in action today with one of the teams, Kenya, who have the ability to throw a spanner in the former's works, all in the mix. So catch that and many more. Looking at Ancelotti taking full squad to Helsinki, full strength on, Carlo Ancelotti has the luxury of being able to call upon his entire Real Madrid squad for today's UEFA Super Cup final against Frankfurt. Well, catch that and many more in the sports section.
And in the sports part of the new vision, para swimmer Kobugabe has won 4 medals for Uganda at the Islamic Solidarity Games in the Turkish city of Konya. And they give you a picture right there of her during those competitions. Games review as cyclists mere participants, and of course they're giving you Uganda represented by 2 riders in the Birmingham, and of course one is male and female. The full story is in the new vision for this morning, and inside the sports for today, Pirates trap opponents. That is there for you in the new vision.
Well, there is quite a lot that is happening, but also you need to know that the traffic updates will be ready for you just after letting you know what is happening in the Daily Nation. Decision 2022 bated breath as a tallying is still going on, or actually as it begins. And like we said, it is quite very, very hot between the two contenders. And final tally, Raila Odinga and William Ruto were level last evening as results from the day's presidential election started streaming in, and of course crowning a day that had earlier been sullied in by low voter turnout across the country. We're looking at 51.95% for Raila Odinga and 47.45% William Ruto. Lowest voter turnout in recent history, and they're giving you the statistics over there to catch up on. So grab yourself the Daily Nation and see how it's so far the elections are running, especially the presidential. But also in the traffic updates this morning, focusing on Makindye divisions. These, of course, areas covering Bukasa, covering Tanki Road, Gaba, and Muyenga, as of course you're headed towards the city center, not forgetting Chisugu. And for the most parts of these roads, I could say that the traffic is actually shifting, or there is no really some heavy traffic. So you would be expected to be at your destinations in quite a very short while. But getting in all the way from Bukasa Ring Road, I could say that there are just a few traffic hiccups here and there, as of course shown by the orange spots on this very specific road. But of course, as you're continuing to head all the way to Soweto zone, I could say that you need to expect a few traffic hiccups here and there, as of course shown by the oranges on this very specific road. Of course, again, as you're connecting to Chisugu. Now, Chisugu also has some traffic build-up around this area, but it shouldn't be a big problem because it covers a short span on this road. And as you're headed towards Namwongo is quite a little bit busy for the biggest part of this morning, but it's not so busy for you to worry about because we're seeing quite a lot of greens here that are dominating the biggest part of the road. Now, when you get to the industrial area, looking at 6th Street, it's quite a bit busy, but not extremely. So again, it's quite a passable route for you if you're headed towards the city center. Now, as you're accessing the main road, that is Kampala-Jinja Highway, using Access Road, you need to expect a very heavy traffic over there. Looking at Mukwano Road is also free this morning. The green is quite dominant. Aside from these a few traffic hiccups here and there, you shouldn't face any major hindrances getting to your final destination. Gaba Road, on the other hand, as you're connecting in all the way from Bogo Road, there is quite some traffic stampede over here. We're seeing quite a red stretch over there, but when you surpass it and continue through to Gaba Road, it should be a very smooth ride. For the biggest part of Gaba Road is dominated by green, meaning that there could be less or no traffic at this given time. So as you're headed to the city center, coming in from areas that I've talked about, you don't really have to worry about traffic, at least for this Wednesday morning. And that's it from the traffic updates. I will now leave you to Mollen to tell us what's happening in the climate and weather, arena. Good morning, Mollen. We missed you for the early part.
Yes, very good morning to you, Philomena, and of course, I'll say good morning to our viewers. Well, at least I was getting the weather updates ready, but I'll tell you what, it looks like we are starting off with yet another very dry morning across most of Uganda. Although for northern sector, we still have a continuation of rains. We did see those mostly across Gulu, Kitgum, and Arua yesterday. Some of those rains will be expected even for today. Basically, it might be a repeat of what we were seeing yesterday. So that is what's up. But also we want to look into some of the stories that are making headlines elsewhere in the world. And of course, yesterday we did talk about those historical rains across Seoul, that is in South Korea. Now, by yesterday, at least we were getting numbers that a lot of people are being evacuated from the area where most of these rains were. But also what we do know this morning is that at least 8 people have been reported dead following those heavy rains that seem to be making a history across one of those areas that have not been hit worst when it comes to weather extremes. Now, this has left a lot of homes flooded, roads that have been submerged, and of course most of the areas, subways underwater, killing at least 8 people and forcing hundreds to evacuate from one of South Korea's biggest cities, that is across Seoul. And of course what they are also talking about is that most of these rains expected for this time of the year are usually in smaller quantities, but now reports are showing that this is no longer the case, because they're looking at most of those that are coming through right now being, in terms of intensity and frequency, coming in very strong. And of course, scientists are looking into why this is happening, which is no longer a question because most of these are being linked to the changing weather. But also, on the other hand, we look into what has been happening, that is across, as you look at Europe has been dealing with most of those wildfires. but also Cuba did have one of its worst hit drought cases, and of course the fire that did break out on the island, and of course they're also saying this is the worst in the island's history. That was across Cuba, and reported on Tuesday when firefighters were trying to overcome what officials described as the worst fire in Cuba's history. That has taken over 5 days, and of course this fire did destroy 40% of the Caribbean islands, that is including the main fuel storage over there, and of course the facility, which also caused massive blackouts. And now when you look at such instances of wildfires, again, having in places where you have fuel storages, it means that you're also increasing on the fact that most of these spills will also be affecting the environment. So it's just like a double effect at that. But also Cuba has been one of those areas or islands that have been hit worst when it comes to climate change extremes, and seeing that they have been dealing with at least mostly those tropical storms and the hurricanes, but again now they're adding on with wildfires. That only goes to show you how much, you know, most of these islands are dealing with when it comes to extreme weather events. I think one close to Africa, one of the islands that have been dealing with a lot of effects is across Madagascar. We did see earlier this year when the island was hit with 4 tropical cyclones. And of course, most of these islands are going to be faced with extreme weather events when we're talking about a changing climate. And this is what is at stake. Most of those that come through will be having double effects, especially on the economies of most of these island countries. But also what we do know is that the UK has issued yet again another amber alert, and of course that follows the forecast from the National Weather Centre that is indicating extreme heat that is forecast for most of Britain's most areas. And of course they're talking about England and Wales, where temperatures are again expected to be hitting records. And of course the Britain Weather Service did indicate yesterday that the amber alert, or the extreme heat alert that is coming through, will be for parts of England and Wales, and it is specifically for the hot, dry days that are looked at that might spark fires. And you know, following the fact that there have been breaking records in terms of temperatures. And of course now what is at stake is that this could be straining the nation's infrastructure. Now this is the second time that there is a number alert again. The first of its kind was issued earlier, that is in July, when they were looking at extreme heat waves, and of course as temperatures were rising, wildfires. And that prompted that alert, of course, forcing communities to be on alert. That means you cannot move out of your house unless it is really necessary. And of course, evacuations were made from most of those areas that were expected to be hit most. Now we're seeing another second one. And of course, this is also coming in with alerts of wildfires, most likely across the region. We do hope that most of these extreme events that are related to climate change can be handled, especially when you look at where the world is going right now. Moving for climate action, can we move away from what is destroying the planet? Of course, you talk about the emissions in the atmosphere, mostly the most dangerous one being carbon dioxide that has continuously been going into the atmosphere. How we can phase that down depends on how we handle the oil and gas situation across the world. Talking of oil and gas, the U.S. the Senate has passed, that is, has fronted a climate bill that is yet to be passed. And of course, what they are saying is that this bill will be able to move the U.S. into an economy where they are no longer depending on oil and gas. And of course, they are saying this exempts most oil companies from methane fees. That means that you look at the fact that most of these companies that have been dealing with oil and gas are going to be having a lot of taxes on them. And of course that will force most companies to move for clean energy. And what we do know is that this will be covering at least half of the sector's release of the powerful greenhouse gases. That means that most of these companies that will be moving away from that will actually be have to review the legislation that has been put across. But this might be one of the US's very biggest attempt to pass the Senate climate bill. That is when it comes to oil and gas, and that is something that we are moving forward with for most of these big economies, and not to mention the biggest polluters in this world, because you look at the US and China, those are the biggest polluters that we do know of. US has been putting a lot of efforts towards climate action with the Biden administration, but what we do know is that also China has been moving forward, especially when it comes to looking into abolishing of use of coal. However, their efforts have not been seen to be put across in terms of action. So also what is looked at is that by the time we head for Egypt, that is COP27, at least they're able to put across most of the strategies that they have. Otherwise, most of these countries will be held accountable, especially in the fact that this harm does not only come to the countries, but the rest of the world. When you look at the weather, it's a kind of a global thing. That means that whatever is happening in the US or in China, as long as you're putting these emissions into the atmosphere, they are going to affect everyone on this planet. And that's the biggest worry, which is why everyone has to come on board and agree to most of these pacts that come across, right from the Paris Agreement to the Glasgow Pact. And now we're looking forward to what will come through from El Sheikh, that is in Egypt, come November. And of course, we will be pushing for more action when it comes to abolishing of oil and gas. Well, away from that, we also want to look at what is happening across the country for this morning, and we'll be tapping in from our satellites. We're looking at mostly a dry day across the southern sector of the country. A repeat of yesterday, we're looking at intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions for most areas. However, northern Uganda still continues to have a little bit of those clouds that are starting to develop over there, especially for parts of Gulu, Padel. You look at mostly areas of Apak, Moria dealing with cloudy conditions, but the rest of the country seems to be starting off with intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. But later in the afternoon, we will be going in for more of the rains coming through, but that will be only across the northern sector. The rest of us can expect to continue with mostly intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. Now, looking into our forecast for this morning, most of the areas, especially for the southern sector, are still in the forecast to have most of those sunny intervals. But it looks like, again, with the numbers, we're looking at quite a warm day for most areas within the southern sector. We could be looking at quite a warm day still across Kampala, but the forecast also does indicate that most areas within western Uganda might also be having a little bit of sunny intervals for much of today. Now, the one coming in from Uganda National Meteorological Authority, we start off with the western part of Lake Victoria. We're looking at Masaka, Kalisizo, Zimbabwe and Rakai. We are forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, starting off with quite a chilly 25. Eastern Lake Victoria Basin, that is where we have Tororo, Busia, Iganga and Jinja. We're forecasting sunny intervals, starting off with quite a warm 26 degrees. Mbale, Bududa, Buko and Sironko, still having a mix of clouds and sunshine in the forecast. Quite a cool morning for you over there. That will be at 25 degrees Celsius. Now look at the southwestern Uganda, where we have Mbarara, Ibanda, Bushenyi and Rurizi. We're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine as well, with a pleasant 26 in the forecast for you right there. And similar weather is expected later in the afternoon. Now, northern Uganda, the central part where we have the Jumani, Gulu, Kitgum and Padel, we're forecasting isolated showers. Those will be coming in for this morning, starting off with 24, quite chilly weather, but we do still expect those rains to cross over into the afternoon. Now, across the eastern parts of Central, where we have Luwero, Woblenzi, Bururi, Nakaseke, we are forecasting sunny intervals. Quite a warm day for you right there, starting off at 27. We do expect most of those sunny conditions to also continue into the afternoon. Across eastern Uganda, Soroti, Kantakuya, Moria and Kumi are still expected to have a mix of clouds and sunshine, and also a pleasant morning at 26 degrees centigrade. Now look at the central parts of Lake Victoria, where we have Kampala, Entebbe, Wakiso and Mukono. We're forecasting a mix of clouds and sunshine, and also starting off with quite a chilly 25 degrees centigrade. But we do expect most of those temperatures to go up, especially for areas that are still expected to continue with most of those sunny conditions. Well, that is it in terms of weather for this morning. We do have Good Morning Uganda agenda coming up. Later than that, we'll also be taking you through sports highlights, and after that, of course, getting you into Good Morning Uganda Extra. My name is Mollen, Kenyena. I want to wish you a lovely day.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here, in the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking, to the taste of food that takes you on a journey, in the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Whitewash is a liquid used for painting things, like walls and fences.
Whitewash.
Okay, the boss just told me the company is only cutting a few jobs. She said not to worry.
How is that supposed to make me feel better? Steve just got fired today.
But she said the company is fine.
Sounds like she's trying to whitewash the problem.
When you whitewash something, you cover its natural condition with whiteness. Whitewash can make surfaces look clean. But in conversation, whitewashing means to make something wrong or illegal look okay. It is a way of hiding a truth or covering up unpleasant facts. And that's English in a Minute.
I remember the lockdown, when the streets were empty and our lives disrupted, when businesses closed and our livelihoods hung in the balance. Hospitals were full. We lost loved ones, jobs, and hope. Our children couldn't study anymore. We cannot let this happen again. We should not go back. Get fully vaccinated against COVID-19 and join the millions of Ugandans who are already vaccinated.
A World Cup in the desert? The first one in the Middle East. The first to be held at the end of the year? That's crazy. Get ready for spectacular moves. High-flying saves. Unbelievable goals. Out of this world celebration.
Would you believe it? What a moment here!
All 64 matches live. That's over 5,000 action-packed minutes of the FIFA 2022 World Cup Qatar. Now that's crazy. Catch all the action only on SuperSport, your world of champions. On Go TV. Love it.
Pick of the day on UBC.
You can only become a leader when there are problems.
Behind the headlines.
So what are we federating? Whether rats from another country can be, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
Every Wednesday at 10 p.m.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda, we have made Museveni the issue. I can tell Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still be this roundabout.
was brought to you by
Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard. That's super easy.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Good morning and thank you for keeping it with us here on UBC TV. I'm Robert Kirabo, Nyonyintono, in case you've just joined us. Welcome to the morning show. We begin at 6:30 till the hour of 9 with an extension into Good Morning Uganda Extra. So always make it a date with us. Every weekday we're here to spice up your morning with the relevant information that you need to know, but also some light moments. And welcome to this segment, which is Good Morning Uganda Agenda. Today we are looking at East Africa, but particularly Kenya, who had their elections yesterday, and tarring is still ongoing. We'll be waiting to know who will be the actual winner of the 2022 general elections, between that is William Ruto and of course Raila Odinga, who are the two leading candidates in this race. Of course, not forgetting the other two. But joining me on set to look at East African community and more specific, the political, making sense of the political differences, is a man who is a seasoned politician who began his political career very early, because I remember during the CA, he was the youth representative for Central Region. If I read my facts properly, the good thing I have him, he represented a constituency where I belong in Parliament. Then later we saw him in the East Africa Legislative Assembly, that is Yala, as a representative. He went to the Pan-African Parliament also as a representative there. So he's a man who has a lot of experience regarding the region, the continent as Africa, but also even back home, he's one person I'll say who is deeply rooted in his party. And for him, it would give me a shock of a lifetime in a case that we've just been discussing, made a crossover or anything. That is none other than Honorable Mike Kennedy Sebalu, Rotarian. You're most welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator. It's a pleasure always to be hosted by you, Kirabo, as we engage topical issues regarding issues happening in the country, in the region, continent, and global. I would like to salute the viewers out there and thanking you for tuning in. And I hope we are going to have a great session of interactive and beneficial engagement. So thank you for considering me worthy of appearing on your talk show.
Yes, we are always humbled having you, because we know there is a lot of knowledge that we can get and the public can benefit from your presence. Honorable, let's begin with what is happening in Kenya. They had elections, tarring is still going on, but many people on the within East Africa are saying, what an election. What something done so perfect that is rare in a number of East African countries. What different, or how different is Kenya compared to other countries, or what have they done right that we do wrong?
Yeah, it is a very interesting question that you are putting across. The Kenyan experience is a unique one, and I think one thing that they are perfecting as a nation is to learn from past mistakes. I think they are doing a great deal of serious learning from the mistakes and be able to build new momentum for ways of doing better. I had an opportunity to be selected by I had an opportunity to be selected by the East African community to be part of a high-level team that went to do the pre-election assessment this year. That was about 2-3 months ago. That delegation was led by a former president of Burundi, and it had other great personalities, even from the African continent, and were able to interact with the different actors within the electoral process, including the Electoral Commission. We met the Chief Justice, we met the Inspector General of Police, we met party leaders, non-state actors, NGOs, and you could see a very interesting scenario. But one thing that informs the way they do their things as of now is to avoid a repeat of 2007. Luckily enough, 2007, again, I was in Kenya. I was the head of the East African Community Observer Mission. So I watched everything as it unfolded. It was a good process, but at the end of the day, it got messy. But the process had gone on so well, almost perfect. And I think those are lessons, because when you talk with Kenyan leaders, be it in the political space, be it in the civic space, and also corporate space, one the nation, and it is regrettable. And they vowed never to have a repeat of what happened in 2007. And that informs their thoughts, their conversations, and their actions. It largely informs what they do, how they do it, why they do it, when they do it. So that is at the back of the mind of all actors, and all institutions of government are also geared towards ensuring that they occupy their rightful space. Because even before the 2007, Kenya enjoyed a degree of you know,
political maturity?
Yeah, political maturity, because it had an interesting political contestation, but it combined good politics with economic development. You know, there was a bit of competitive politics, especially after the long reign of Kanu, because Kanu enjoyed quite some good reign. But thereafter, multi-party thrived, and economic development was also moving along. So that gave them a bit of admirable position, especially in the East African region, and even on the African continent, they were quite highly rated. So the 2007 was a black spot. It reversed, it distorted that image, and they still want to reclaim that position of a mature democracy, doing things in a mature way, and bringing dignity to their nation. So that informs. But what is interesting now, and what is unprecedented again, they are giving us new lessons, because this is not something we've witnessed in the recent past within our geographical space, especially in the African continent. But we've also not even seen it in the developed world.
And what could that be? We're so anxious to know.
Where you have two candidates. One candidate is known to be a seasoned opposition politician. And that is his outlook, that is his profile. He's on the ballot. But he's on the ballot as a government or a party, a ruling party candidate, when he's essentially opposition. Then you have another candidate who is a deputy president, not even a vice president, because the vice president can just be appointed, but a deputy president in the sense of Kenya is part of government because he's part of the mandate. He was a running mate of the incumbent, so he's part of the government. But now he's reflected as an opposition candidate, given the fact that the ruling party has sponsored a candidate who is officially opposition, but is the candidate of the party, and the current president, the incumbent, has pronounced himself publicly in full support of what you would consider to be an opposition candidate at the expense of his deputy, who is officially known to be a member of the ruling party. Now you have the politics where now the deputy president, who is a candidate, is basically campaigning against his government, the government of which is a deputy president. And you have an opposition candidate who is campaigning in favor of what would essentially be an opposing government, because he's opposition. That scenario is quite interesting, and it is unprecedented. And it raised the stakes so high, because you look at a situation where the president, who is publicly supporting whether would be opposition
yes.
against his own deputy. Now you look at a scenario where the deputy whom the president decampaigned makes it to State House. You have to look at those dynamics thereafter. How do you manage the post-election political dynamics, whichever way it goes? Because you look at Ruto, deputy president, is in office, assuming he wins. How does he relate with
all
Uhuru
those
Kenyatta, who was a buddy and whom he campaigned with and he stood as deputy for 10 years? Then you look at a situation where Odinga wins. Definitely that is more manageable. It is more predictable. It is more connected, because then he will be dealing with his godfather politically. And now you are looking at also a leader who has been available and has given a trial run to the State House severally. Now this is like his last bait. If he doesn't make it this time, chances are it is the best opportunity he ever got. Now that is an interesting thing, but he's also playing against someone who made him tick, because Ruto had a big contribution in making the persona of Raila Odinga during the previous elections. But finally, you are looking at central Kenya, the Kikuyu land, being an attraction to all the political divide, because everyone had to pick a running mate from Kikuyu land in order to tap into that big voter base.
And of course
Kikuyu.
their politics being usually between the Kikuyu and the Kalenjin.
And the yeah, because
basically those two tribes.
It is Rift Valley Central that have dominated the leadership. Actually, it is only those two regions that have provided leadership. But now you find the women factor coming in, where now Odinga had to get a Kikuyu woman in order to tap into the big vote of Kikuyu land, but also the broader constituency of women. So the dynamics are quite interesting.
Well, now, having looked into Kenya and, of course, how for now we are seeing a successful story, let's look at the region, East Africa, where now we look at these indifferences, yet we dream of one political federation. You have Uganda, where we have no term limits. You have Uganda, where we have consistently had the same person in power. We have Tanzania, where there is some, they have their democracy as well, to the level they appreciate it. Of course, many would say when we saw the demise of Pombe Magufuli and the Vice President, Samia Suluhu, taking over smoothly, that is also quite in one way. We have our brothers in Rwanda, where their term is much longer compared to the rest. Go to South Sudan, they still need prayers as they are trying to ensure that they really have stable relationship. Congo, president is there. Some parts are unmanageable and unruly as they are trying rebels and all that. Where does this put this region, these political indifferences? Where do they put the proper federation and growth of the East African community in terms of leadership?
Yeah, that is a very important question you are putting across. But I think we need to appreciate where we are coming from. We need to appreciate the process, because integration is a process. It's not an event. You don't wake up one day and you are integrated. It is a journey. You must walk deliberately, intentionally, and purposefully. By doing that, then you set modalities of building momentum for that to happen. And integration is also informed by the fact that the individual states that are integrating appreciate that at one point they need to subordinate their sovereignty to a supranational level of authority. And that is what you can call an integrated framework of governance. Now, we are at the moment integrating individual sovereign states with their individual constitution, with their individual policies, with the notion of national interest. They have their interests that they are pushing and as individual nations, which then at the right time should be subordinated to what we call the common good of all East African countries. And we are now cooperating with a view of integrating. But when we get to the level of integration and we talk of constituting a regional government, an integrated government, then we need to come up with a regional, the Constitution of East Africa. At the moment, we are using a treaty, and a treaty guides cooperation, but it does not enforce uniformity in terms of governance and all that. So when we get to the point of having an East African constitution, then it will prevail over the individual national constitutions that we have, and therein we will have the modus operandi. So that's when now you can make uniformity across board in order to operate as an entity. So that is the difference now. Right now, we are cooperating as sovereign states, each country with its constitution. That's why you see the terms. Rwanda, it is 7 years. In Uganda, you have differences in governance structures. In Kenya, you know, there are all those dynamics that cut across. But once we get to a point of being one single entity, political entity, then we'll be governed by a constitution that will apply across the entire region. As of now, we are cooperating as sovereign individual states.
Honorable, this brings me to ask you, do you see the will in this? And relation to that question, does a sitting president of a particular member within the East African community matter so much in this journey of integration?
Yeah, definitely integration is driven by leadership. And leadership is critical in building momentum, in popularizing the integration agenda, in implementing agreed decisions and directives from the summit, from the Council of Ministers. All that is a function of leadership. So leaders do matter a lot, and that's why you find that some countries appear to be moving faster in quest for integration, while others are a bit reluctant, and that can be attributed to the leaders, because some leaders want to have it faster, achieved sooner than later. Others are cautious. They're like, look, wait a minute, what is it? What is therein for us, and how do we get along? You find others who are protecting maybe their domestic industries, so they don't want to open up to the common market fully for the full benefit of everyone. They are using the national interest. Actually, if there is anything, there are two limiting factors which are slowing down the integration agenda and speed. One is that notion of sovereignty, and two, the notion of national interest. You find that there are many things we agree upon as a region, but when leaders go back to their capitals, they now go behind sovereignty to slow down the pace, or they pursue the agenda that appears to benefit more in terms of national interest. And yet, the driving factor should be the common interest of having a bigger entity, a bigger bargaining position, a big market where each and every member state stands to benefit. So those dynamics and the interests and the outlook of the leadership has a bearing on the speed and the pace at which the integration agenda is evolved.
Let's look at still in view of Kenya's elections. We are waiting to know who will be at the end of the day declared the winner. Let's look at interstate relationships as we push for full integration of this community. At one time we had a relationship between Uganda and Rwanda, not that very good. Recently, following campaigns, this was public information, one of the candidates in the Kenya race made a funny statement when talked about don't compare us with the worst, and mentioned a number of states within this very community that we are talking about. How best should these relations be handled? Because at one time we feel there is a setback. One person says we don't want agricultural products from one country. The other says, no, because of some issues I'm locking my border. Inter or bilateral relations within this. Where is the power of the community?
Yeah, I think we have a clear agenda. We have a clear roadmap of integration, and we need to respect that. And like I told you, there are different stages. Right now, we do have a common market, which is a great platform for ensuring that the market is opened up, and the idea is to benefit everyone. You know, one thing that people are not getting right is that you are better off operating in a bigger space with better capacity, with better possibilities, and with better opportunities than operating in a small enclave confined to your challenges of small survival. We need to think about a region where all the partner states are thriving, rather than in a region where partner states are struggling and at best surviving. Because survival is imperative, but thriving is that phase where now everything is in autopilot. Things are working right, things are working well, things are working best. Now, the problem that we do have with some of our leaders being inward, because some imagine that they have an immediate advantage today, but that immediate advantage may not be sustainable in the long run. In the long run, we need to build the synergy and tap into the extreme possibilities and potential of our region. Look at oil, for instance. Literally, we have oil as a resource, we have minerals. So if you build capacity at a regional level of better exploitation, like oil, if you build the synergy and build capacity and you have a refinery from this part of the region, and whoever is producing oil can be able to use that facility as a common good, definitely this is going to position you better within the global economy, and you stand to benefit because you build capacity, you use less effort, build good capacity, but share the benefits of integration. But our people, our leaders, some of our leaders are not looking at that possibility of gaining better benefits from integration, better than what we have from our individual local capacity. So synergy is something that we should look at in terms of where we want to go. And we need to take benefit of the European Union, for instance. If you are a group of poor men in your village, but you want to operate individually because of your sovereignty, sovereign home and whatever, but you find in the neighboring village, the rich men there are coming together to consolidate their point of advantage over you, then you need to be fundamentally not non-strategic, not to consider to unite as poor men, to create some level of strength that can counter the combined effort of the rich men. So when you see rich nations in Europe coming together, and for us, the poor nations in Africa are proud of our poverty and want to take it our individual way, then that is being non-strategic, because coming together is strength, is building capacity, is actually a basis for survival in this very highly competitive world that we are having.
Honorable, let's look at the power of this committee. Yes, we're at the level of cooperation. Like you've said, we've not gone into full integration. But where is the power of this community to handle issues within the region, except those that are within the treaty? Because we've had wars or rebel activities within this region, where one country says these rebels are being harbored by someone, being supported by this other country. Recently, we saw the outgoing president of Kenya coming out and saying, you know, let's have a force to go and help our brothers in Congo, wipe out these rebels. So to what extent does the community, the East African community, even before we go into what power, what strength does it have over affairs? Yes, sovereignty is there, but over affairs of member states? Or is it just because we look at, we have a full-fledged secretariat, we look at, we have the East Africa Legislative Assembly, where you were for some good time, Honorable. So all these bodies, the court, you know,
yeah, the East African
Court, it seems like
justice is applicable, and it is
where we sometimes it finds issues presiding over some areas because of jurisdiction. Then so these laws do not apply. We are only tied to things that are within the treaty. And to some people who are eager to see this, it doesn't make good sense.
Yeah, but I think we need to be orderly also in the way we proceed with the integration. The integration process is guided by the treaty. And there are those specific areas of cooperation that are enshrined within the treaty, and that must be enforced in accordance with the treaty. So deviating from the treaty would be bad practice. We need to comply, we need to respect, we need to appreciate what is provided for in the treaty. I think what we need also to do is to have the discipline of complying with the decisions that are taken at the regional level, because integration presupposes that you are ready, available, and willing to subordinate your level of authority to a supranational level of authority for purposes of a common good. So the decisions that are taken at the regional level, be it in terms of the laws, be it in terms of the policy framework, be it in terms of summit decisions and directions, should, as of necessity, be respected and complied with. So the fact that you have some indiscipline here and there does not make it a good practice. The best practice is that you've agreed, because joining the community is not forced. You are not forced to belong. You apply to belong, and that is the reason that you must have a border with an existing member of the community. You must have a democratically elected government. You must be applying a free economy. Those are the conditions of joining, and they are voluntary. And you need to comply with them. You need to be found to be in good terms with such. So when you volunteered to belong to any grouping, it is just good practice and good manners for you to comply and respect the rules of engagement. And with the rules of engagement as provided for in the treaty, we should be under obligation to enforce them, because it is for the common good of all of us, and it is in our best interest as a region.
Let's look at these economic indifferences, because when you integrate, yes, we look at a common market, we look at numbers that we have as, but when you look at some of these states, for example, Kenya, one would say they have had a stability for some time, but also economically, maybe I would call them, if you have to look at countries within this region, the economic hub of East Africa. So how then do we look at our cooperative advantages, bring them together for the benefit?
Yeah, the comparative advantages should play ball. But I think the most important thing, there are different integration models. There is one integration model which is called the hegemonic, where you get a big nation within an integrating area taking lead and sacrificing a little more. and for purposes of benefits. But for us, we took the model of sovereign equality, that we are equal. So in everything...
Is that being practical? We are just assuming and having that at the back of our minds? Because, Honorable, I want to give you an example. If you look at education systems, at one time, our hotels here were dominated by Kenyans because we thought they are a step ahead in this kind of service industry in one or the other. When you look at levels of development, our GDPs, you know, literacy levels, we aren't.
Yeah, you know, from a diplomatic perspective and international relations, sovereign equality is on the basis of we are governments. It's like when you are adults. You may be adults. One is richer, one is poor, but as adults, you say, look, I'm an adult. Don't treat me like a kid, I'm an adult. So even a state is a state, regardless of whether it is small or big. There is that equality that it is a state, it has a president, that is a principle. Then you can go to details of how, okay, you're a state, but what quality of state are you? What strength are you? What capacity are you? But sovereign equality, like when you go to the United Nations, all presidents are offered same level of attention because they are heads of state and they are given their right to be heard, they're given their right to express themselves. So even in the East African context, we took the view of sovereign equality. That's why Burundi, Rwanda, which are small countries in terms of population, when it comes to Yala, they are sending 9 representatives. 9 representatives from Kenya, which is a big economy, from Tanzania, which is a big economy, big country, a vast country in terms of geographical space, in terms of population, in terms of the resource base. So we took the view that we are operating on the basis of sovereign equality. That may have its disadvantages, because even in terms of representation, it is not proportionate, because a country of 60 million being represented by 9, and a country of, say, 15 million also having 9 may not, in practical terms, be proportionate and may be representative enough. But that is the position that was taken. But the beauty is that a treaty is a living document. Maybe at some point in time, we may get the rationale of appreciating proportional representation and also proportional contribution. Because even in terms of contribution to the community, to the budget, it is the same amount. It is the budget shared out between the 7 countries. And yet, in some other integration arrangements, budgets are contributed to proportionate to the size of the economy, so that the bigger sacrifice more, because even when it gets to benefit, they stand to benefit more. So those are dynamics, those are choices you make, but as a region, it is work in progress. We may need to look at what is working and look at how best to consolidate it and sustain it. We also need to ask ourselves what is not working, and we look at better ways of doing it. And we also need to look at what we need to do differently in order to survive better. So those questions still apply. That conversation should continue to be engaged in, and the debate around how best do we proceed and achieve our integration agenda is something we need to appreciate. But we all know the end game. We want to be better, we want to be competitive, we want to have a big bargaining position, we want to claim our fair share in the global geopolitics.
Well, we hope we get to that. But before I get your parting shots, just take us through what could be the impact of Kenya's election to this community.
Yeah, one, like you talked about a candidate maybe who talked ill about countries within. I think that is not being strategic, that is not being diplomatic, because even the scenario of 2007 is not a scenario that has happened in any of the other countries. So if the other countries use it as an ugly past and use it to undermine Kenya, it wouldn't be well. In diplomacy, you should be ready to coexist. You should be able to interact and coexist with all other. That is why we have the civilized, we have to be part of civilized community of nations. And being part of civilized community of nations is to have mutual respect for purposes of mutual benefit and mutual interest. So that statement was regrettable in my view. At such a level, you don't degenerate into name calling or abusing or undermining the status of your fellow sovereign states. But in case of Uganda, in case of the region, the impact of the electoral process, we just want the electoral process to come out good and clean. We want it to be free and fair. We want it not to degenerate to conflict and violence, so that the electoral process is concluded and the new leader within Kenya joins the rest of the leaders in the community to pursue the agenda of ensuring that we grow this region. We should be thinking big. We should have a world view of what we want the region to be. And once the region grows to that level that we are anticipating, each of us stands to benefit better. Actually, individually, we will be better than what we are. Because when you build synergy and you create better capacity and you negotiate better, you're a big market, the big global markets will treat you with the utmost respect. And you can have your fair share of the global benefits of the global economy. So it is in our interest as member states of the East African community to look forward to peaceful, credible, and successful elections devoid of any conflict and violence. We should be looking at the best case scenario to get Kenya back with the leadership in the community that can champion the cause. But if we go into violence, definitely that is not something we should imagine, that is not something we should look forward to. So a successful electoral process in Kenya is for the best interest of the East African community.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Honorable, that is Mike Kennedy Sebalu, and of course our Rotarian. Thank you so much.
Yeah, let me say something about Rotary.
Okay.
You know, Rotary is that organization that does good in the world. And we have 7 areas of focus. And these focuses are good because they make humanity better. We have peace and conflict resolution. And the peace in the region, peace in the country, and peace in the region is of our interest. So even as Rotarians, we look forward to a successful, free and fair, peaceful and credible electoral process so that it doesn't create possibilities for violence within Kenya, which can easily extend to the rest of the countries in the neighborhood. Then we have basic education and literacy, and that's where I have my flagship project of basic education and literacy enhancement program. We have the environment as an area of focus. We have economic empowerment. We have disease prevention and treatment. And we have maternal and child health. So those are 7 areas of focus where we do life-changing and impactful projects to ensure that humanity survives better. So that is our role. We operate as non-state actors in our civic responsibilities as good citizens.
Well, one time I was speaking to a Rotarian that was the late engineer Emmanuel Katerega. And he told me you don't have to be rich to be a Rotarian. I don't know how true that is, but well,
it is true because you are only rich at heart, not rich in the pocket. You are ready to share 1,000 and give 500 to a colleague who is suffering, and you retain the 500. So it is being rich at heart.
Well, rich at heart, have a lovely day. We continue to wish the people of Kenya a peaceful sail through the electoral process now that the tiring is going on. And UBC TV will be updating you with whatever is happening. Sports next. God bless you.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.